We're on.
Hey,
Hell yeah.
nice.
How's it going, buddy?
It's good. How are you, man? It's been a while,
It's been a couple of days, at least. More than weeks or years, actually. I remember
Yeah,
seeing you the first time we met. That was when we met at Danny Levisi's apartment. It was me,
yeah, that
you,
was,
and a bunch of other guys. It was wild, wild time.
yeah.
And I think we met once in Irvine. I believe we did, but I can't remember, dude. I think I'm meeting too many people, talking to way too many people, and I not only forget names, but also forget when I meet someone. Like, dude, you don't
Yeah.
remember we had a dinner? Like, oh yeah, yeah,
I no, I remember having dinner with you and Danny.
yeah.
And then I
That I
remember
remember that.
meeting you and AJ at some Korean barbecue place in downtown LA.
That must have not been me. I don't remember eating
No,
barbecue,
I
Korean
swear to
barbecue.
God, it was you. I'm gonna ask AJ.
Okay, okay. I can
Um,
guarantee I don't know any Korean barbecues in downtown LA. I'll tell you for certain. But maybe my memory is like a Swiss cheese, so who freaking knows? Well, I wanted to chat with you. Well, first of all, obviously we haven't spoken in a while, and you've been killing it. I love your work. You had some changes going on in your career as well. I just wanted to get caught up on that and see what's up, but also just introduce you. I guess a lot of people who are going to listen to this and watch this, you already know who you are. But maybe we could start with this. Just getting like a short introduction on who you are, getting
yeah,
people
yeah,
a little more familiar with the person, not behind
sure.
the camera, but behind the microphone.
hmm So I mostly am a sculptor. I do both characters and creatures, and I started out pretty much in the CG industry. I was more of a 3D generalist, did a bit of CG for commercials, TV, film, games.
Hmm.
And then I slowly moved into games, worked for a couple of companies, and then I remember my first gig was with Guerrilla Games in Amsterdam. This was in 2004 or 5, I can't remember. But it was
Wow.
for, yeah, it was a long time ago. This was for Killzone 2, I believe,
Hmm.
for the PS3. So I spent a few years with them working on characters, and then after that, I moved on to Blizzard, where I got to work on like the in-game cinematics for StarCraft 2, and I pretty much spent 7 years of my career at Blizzard on StarCraft 2. That's when I had the chance to work with a lot of really cool people like Fausto, Barubi, Nick Carpenter, just amazing talent in that studio. So 7 years of my career at Blizzard was spent working on the real-time cinematics for StarCraft 2, and then I
Hmm.
spent about 1 or 2 years working in pre-rendered modeling, where I did like pretty much pre-rendered modeling for the cinematics, and then I moved on to creative development, which is the department that does a lot of the collectibles and concept work for the cinematics.
Oh, that's cool.
So yeah, the last few years of my career at Blizzard was kind of like went off a tangent. I was mostly into CG for film and games and really just the visual side. But the last 2 years, I actually focused strictly on merchandising and collectibles and actually learning that entire process. So that was really interesting for me. So in total, about 10 years at Blizzard, and then decided to take a break. 10 years is really a long time.
It's a lot. It's a decade, dude.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, I want to try something different. So I just took a break, took a few months to rest, and then did some traveling. And then Nick Carpenter hit me up one day. We started having lunch, and he asked if I was interested in working at Bonfire Studios.
Hmm. That's the
And
studio he started.
yeah, he and a couple of folks. Um, and it's a really special place. I'm really digging it right now. One of the biggest reason for getting on this ride is just I feel like I'm going to have a lot of creative freedom. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, how that feels, right? Like you're working on
Of course.
Showtime, and you have like 100% control, which is great, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It feels great to basically not give a damn about what people say and just do whatever you want.
Exactly. So for the first time in my career, I'm actually starting to experience that at the office, which is weird for me. I'm still trying to get used to it. Um, but yeah, I've been here about half a year so far and really enjoying it.
Yeah, it's a
Um,
fresh start, isn't it? Like I'm pretty sure you guys are working like a completely fresh new IP, and when that is happening, I wonder how many guys you have there. Like how many people work at the bonfire right now?
right now we have 13, and like
Oh, it's a
all our
small team,
profiles. Yeah, it's really small.
really small team. That's
Yeah,
awesome, dude. That's
yeah,
awesome.
I'm digging it.
Yeah, like if the team is so small, it's like yeah, I mean, who else is gonna, you know, like come up with those ideas? Like
Hmm.
everyone is, I'm guessing everyone is like equally involved in all aspects of the production. So like when the team is so
Yeah,
small, you have just so much more to say
you have
versus when the
to.
company just scales up. I remember when I joined Crytek, that was back in 2005 when I moved to Germany. The Crytek was like 40 people, maybe 50 when I joined. I think it was like 50. It was right after they finished Far Cry,
Okay.
and from that moment till the moment I left, which was in 2010, like mid of 2010 when I came to US, worked for Naughty Dog.
Hmm.
There was like 300 or 350 people in the main office. They had a couple of like satellite studios like Kiev and Budapest, and I think they
Yeah,
were opening in England. I think they were opening in US as well. It was
yeah,
crazy, dude. It was like at least 500 or 600 people hired overall. It's like that shift you go from like knowing everyone to not knowing anyone.
yeah. But I honestly don't think it's a good or a bad thing. I feel like sometimes the brand requires just that amount of people, you know,
Yeah, 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 yeah. Of
and
course.
you need people who steer that ship, and you need the crew, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a company as big as Naughty Dog or like Blizzard, they need that amount of people. Um, but then you have this a lot of success with the smaller indie games as well, right? You see a lot of games that have so few people and they manage to do so well, you know.
Yeah.
And I think I was sort of hungry for that because I've never been in that kind of environment. So
Mm-hmm.
definitely now I'm really starting to experience what it feels like to be in a startup and like just the challenges and like being able to wear different hats. I mean, you do your own IP, you know what that feels like, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's like when you have that startup mentality where it's all just like coming together and you're sort of like it's a double-edged sword. On one hand, you know, on one hand, when you want to start a new idea, it's like you have a
Hmm.
full control over it, but also on the other hand, you have full control over it. That means like
Yeah.
the things that you're not necessarily jazzed about and doing, they also mean that you have to take care of them. It's the same thing when you start a business, and I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
you already know that. You've been producing collectibles, and that's great to hear. I wasn't aware you were like I was like mildly aware you were doing something with Blizzard
Hmm.
already, but I wasn't really diving into it that much. Like there's just too much going on. Um, but now it just kind of makes sense. So uh, let's maybe just go back to that real quick. So you were like working on the cinematic sides with the merchandise later on, right?
Yeah.
Like from the cinematics to merchandise for like 3 years. So I
Hmm.
guess was like a good sort of experience to this is how it's done. It's almost like a masterclass, huh?
Yeah. Interestingly enough, I had already been doing it before I moved to that
Oh, okay.
department, and I think that was part of the reason why they thought I may be a good fit because then I was already pretty aware of like 3D printing,
Oh,
producing
okay.
collectibles, just not at the same scale as a big company like Blizzard. So for
Gotcha.
me, the really learning experience was being shoved into the deep end of like what manufacturing means and like getting to go to China and just seeing how everything works, QC, painting, just a
Mm-hmm.
mass production of stuff, and just seeing a product through from concept all the way to like fulfillment and marketing and all that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, but to me that was a good experience. But even before I joined the company, I was already doing it, and I really like um, making art. But interestingly enough, I also like the other aspects of the business,
Mm-hmm.
um, and stuff like marketing, e-commerce, just pushing your brand, social media, and all that. And I'm still learning, and there's a lot to learn, man. Like seriously,
It's like
like
starting learning art all over, but just like a
yeah,
completely different thing.
it's so crazy though, don't you think? Like, it's great if an artist is like really, really good at art, but if they're not savvy at the whole social media side, it's very hard to push your work out there. I feel like you can
Yeah.
almost teach a workshop on just that, how to market yourself as an artist. Um,
Yeah, I think you would agree that the vast majority of artists, including myself, I already have a little bit of experience because I have my own business for past couple of
mhm.
years. So I learned the hard way, making all the possible mistakes that
Right,
are
right.
like all the mistakes you can make that are possible.
Yep. But
I've already made or I'm about to make. You know.
I think that's good because I keep getting asked questions from people who are afraid to make those mistakes.
Yeah.
And honestly, the best way to learn is just go in, be
Yeah.
fearless and make mistakes because that's honestly I can give you answers to what could go right or wrong with your business, but like honestly, the best way for you to learn is the hard way is to make the decisions yourself, find out what works, what doesn't work, and then learning from those mistakes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Like you want to make those mistakes yourself. Well, if there are certain things you can learn, like certain patterns,
For sure.
you can learn. But I've noticed one thing. So um, I started working with a business consultant a while ago, and it's just like on a
Okay.
really low capacity, but just getting an advice on very specific things. And I've noticed that a lot of times I'm wasting money by doing that because I just don't
Mm.
listen. Like I have my own conviction on things, and I just don't listen. and then
But was
and
it was
then
it good advice? Was it good
oh yeah,
advice?
then like after a while, it's like fuck, I should have listened.
Oh,
You
so
know what I
so
mean?
you're just stubborn, right? That's it. You're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
stubborn.
Because like there's certain sort of here's an interesting thing about business and art and why I think it's something that all of the artists should really start looking into.
Mhm.
Because I believe, and I'm 100% convinced that 95% of artists out there, at least 95%, easily, outside of some outliers and some really good people that know what they're doing and they are learning and they're sort of striving in that business area. 95% of people out there, and it's not their fault, it's just how it is, and I was there as well, and I am still, but I'm trying to get out of that predicament, are terrible, terrible at business. Bad, like really bad. Um, and it comes down to many layers. I think for me specifically, the biggest wake up call that I have to treat my career as business, not as just like this honky dory. I'm painting and making money doing that.
What's
Was
wrong with
actually
that? That sounds great.
was actually two things. One, being threatened by lawsuit for complete bullshit reasons, which is that can happen to anyone without your wrongdoing, in this at
Yeah.
least in America. And then second one, having a child, and all of a sudden having this completely different responsibility and starting to look at life completely different way. I think those two things really changed the way I think about stuff. So for me, like when I reached out to you, um, just to have you on the podcast, obviously, and that's something we discussed before. I know you're sort of like in between work right now, like on the break.
Mhm.
So I don't obviously not gonna take too much of your time. And possibly we'll make one more podcast to talk about different things. But I think it's a good topic to have, especially with you seeing how you present yourself on social media and how professional everything you do looks. At least
Mhm.
it's just like I think you're a right person to discuss those things. I'm curious, like what got you into thinking about business, and what got you think into that area of first merchandising, just it was just interest, inspiration, and then like I guess facing the reality of what merchandising is, then like, oh, there's like a social media marketing, all of those layers, you know?
I feel like the catalyst for me was when 3D printing started picking up. And then
Mm-hmm.
I started printing my own stuff because the thing about 3D, right? Like if you look at 3D art and 2D art, I feel like 2D art, the perfect medium for 2D art are prints, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
prints of the 2D. But I feel like for 3D art, I would say prints are okay, but I don't think it really represents the product as well as an actual physical sculpture.
yeah.
So when
I
I
agree.
realized that, like, okay, the patterns for like 3D printing stuff is like getting lifted. You see a lot of really affordable 3D printers. You see a lot of companies offering services. That was when I started to print some of my work, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna start selling this and see if people are gonna buy my stuff. And then one thing led to another. And
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm like a super curious person. I'm always like reading up stuff, maybe too much, like to the point where I read up about stuff that I will probably never ever use in my career, but I just want to learn.
Right.
Um, yeah, so I started reading up about everything about setting up an LLC, differences in like corporation and LLC, how to file taxes. Should you bother setting up a business bank account, or yeah, and then just slowly to like e-commerce and Shopify, or like all the various platforms you have out there. I think it's also, like I said, it's my nature. I get really obsessive at times. Um,
Yeah.
yeah,
You go 0 to 100, like I need to learn this. Rah! Read
yeah,
all the
yeah,
books, all the
yeah.
business books out there. Um, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I'm not maybe the same way. I'm very similar in a way that I get interest in something and then like pursue it. There's certain things I just need to learn from necessity, even though I hate them. Because I really hate the whole
Can
business
what?
thing. I'll be honest with you, because it's just like a headache. It just kills my creativity. I wonder what's your approach on
Right.
this.
The business side, I don't know. It's to me, I don't hate it. Like I hate it when I have to file quarterly sales tax. I hate
Now we're
that, but
talking.
like, but when I get it done, I'm like, yeah, I got it done. And each time I do it, I get faster. But it's fun. It's weird because when it's time to do it every quarter, I tell my wife, do I really have to do this again?
Yeah,
But
man.
each time I just get faster and faster. Um, but I agree with you. Some of those things, it's just you have to be disciplined about it. Just part and parcel of running your own business.
Yeah. I guess it comes down to whether you want to be working in a corporation and sort of like have all of those issues solved for you, but then you're sort of like on the mercy of what's going to happen with the company
Yeah.
versus leading your own way and sort of like figuring out for yourself, okay, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to have freedom to do that. And before the call you asked me like if I worked from home, and I said yes, and you said it must be pretty awesome to be able to do that. I said yes, it has its own shortcomings. you know and one
Yeah.
of those is like you have to become really savvy at business. There's
Mhm.
certain layers of on what's going on in the business that you have to be aware of. You have to plan ahead, like way much more way ahead than normally, right? Like
Yeah.
for instance, I worked at Naughty Dog for 4 years. I think I spent there 4 years. The only reason I left was that I got a possibility to work in film industry. So it
Mhm.
was, for me, it was a leap of fate. I wanted to try work in film and see how it is, and it worked out great. But then over time, there's one realization I had, and I still have. It's like, sometimes I miss that stability. I'm maybe making more
Yeah.
money. All of those things really matter. It's great, but then, you know, you just never know what's gonna happen. Like, and you really have to plan ahead. You really have to be on your feet with everything. It's
Right.
always it becomes like this constant hassle of you're hustling all the time. You're hustling
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
hustling, making sure that the calls are coming. You can be a really good artist and you're gonna get phone calls coming in, but
Yeah.
even then you're gonna have months or weeks where like, oh, there's not much going on. There's only
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
and I have to pick it up. I already had projects where I just had to pick up a project, and I'm not complaining, but I wish I did not do that. I wish I waited for something else, and that's
Hmm.
always a stress. And I think it's an important information for people to know. If you freelance, you're always gonna be stressed, unless you have like a weird character where you don't stress at all. Even if it's
Yeah.
going great, you're gonna be stressing out. So
But the thing about like look at the work you put out, right? Like I feel like there are freelancers who don't really they're not bothered about creating their own IP, you
hmm
know, and that's fine. I would almost compare it to like people who have a day job and they are fine just not doing any personal art on the side, and
yeah,
that's totally okay, right? Because you have stability, that's fine. Um, but to me, and I feel like you feel the same way as well. It's like it's about the long game.
yeah,
It's to me, it's like I am building an IP, and that IP could be just myself as a brand, as an artist
hmm
for the next 10, 20, 30 years, right? So I think like all the work that we're doing now, it's all gonna amalgamate in 10 to 20 years. And then it's like you're not gonna see the progress every year. You
yeah,
know what I mean? You're gonna see it in 5 to 10 years, right? And I'm just trying to say like that trajectory takes that much time, right? And
yes, 100%.
you have to start now. Now you can say like, you know what, I don't enjoy making personal art, and that's fine. Um, because that doesn't work for you, that's totally fine. But like for people who like doing personal art, I feel like you should be building your brand
hmm
consistently over time, right? And I look at the stuff that you do, it's perfect because you are like building this world. I'm just waiting for the Kickstarter or the book. Just tell me when.
I don't think I want to do a
And
Kickstarter, man. I don't know. It's not my thing. I had
why?
there's the way I approach this is very simple. Like, I rather have something that is already made and then approach it in a way, okay, like, I've done it. I have no pressure on doing this. It's not becoming another job, because one thing when you get a Kickstarter, like, it depends on at which point you start. I guess if you already have a product ready, and then you just need like extra funding for, okay, like, I want to have a distributor, enough money to print enough copies, or like whatever that would be, right? Then I guess it makes sense. Um, but I don't know. It's still sort of like this pressure of, I still have to make it happen.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't
I've
see it as funding. To me, Kickstarter is just a marketing platform.
mm,
You know, like
that's interesting.
I've never seen Kickstarter as like I need X amount of money to make this product. It was never like that for me. To me, it's like reaching that Kickstarter audience, and this is a segment of the population who is willing to give you their money for something they know that they might not get. Like they're
Mm.
putting their hope in this product, and that's very, very powerful. I don't think anywhere else you can find people who are willing to take that leap of faith on a product. So to me, that's like,
I guess Patreon would be similar, right? Where
yeah,
it's sort
yeah,
of like you're delivering something, not necessarily because there are
hmm,
Patreons that are just there,
yeah,
and if you support it, that's great. If not, then whatever. It's just like, hey,
hmm,
like, that's how I actually. So I have Patreon for Art Cafe, for instance, right?
hmm,
I've set it up very simply. It's like, hey, if you like what I'm doing, uh, and you want to chip in, that's a good way of doing that.
right,
If you
right,
don't want to, you don't need to. I don't want to sell any
Yeah.
promises like, oh, I'm gonna have this amount of episodes, I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
that. I have goals set up like, okay, if it reaches this level, like this means I can get like, maybe more cameras and shit, because it's
Mm-hmm.
all my own. Like I'm not making almost any money at doing this, out of
Right.
just
Right.
like pennies from advertising on YouTube, which is
Mm-hmm.
something I'm considering just to shut down because I know ads are annoying and most of you guys are not watching it, and it's just like the benefit of this is not really worth it. Um, and to it's small opportunities here and there that happen, but most of them I treat as like I don't really want to do that. I'm treating this as a platform that I just want to have. It's free, it's fun. I'm having fun doing this, and if it just becomes a job, then it's not fun anymore.
Yeah.
I already have a
I
job,
Yeah, no, I hear you for sure. The way
Yeah.
I look at Kickstarter, like I said, it's not for funding, dude. It's seriously for marketing.
That's
And
interesting.
when
I've never
yeah,
heard this approach personally.
uh,
So
yeah, and you get a lot of traffic because you have this really passionate audience that will help share your product because they want to see
right.
it be successful. And dude, do not underestimate the passion. All you need is just for people to share your Kickstarter and then wait for some kind of like I don't know Kotaku or like Bleeding Cool or whatever to pick up your book, and then that's it. That's like free PR,
Yeah, that's true.
right?
That's true. I agree with you. Yeah, I've
So
never thought about it this way. I have, maybe it's my brain working that way, like a very traditional approach to social media, I guess.
just
But that's
think
really
back when
interesting.
yeah, just think back when that business consultant was giving you advice and then you were really stubborn. So this is happening all over again.
Yeah.
Um, dude, but it is work for sure. Like I agree with you, and that's why when I've done two Kickstarters right now,
Hmm.
um, and both times I already had the product, right, and it was just like fulfillment. I had already done the
Gotcha.
work. It was just fulfillment, and I think that is the better route. You know, um,
That makes sense as you're saying it, treating it more of a, okay, like I already have this thing ready. I just need more traffic because I'm not really gonna make money on the Kickstarter itself. I really gonna make money on when I start selling the actual product itself.
mhm, mhm.
So that's more sort of grounded approach. I've seen so many Kickstarters where you see promises and nothing gets delivered, and I think a lot of people react to it negatively. I don't know how it impacts your persona as well. I've never really knew. Um,
Well, I
there's
mean,
examples out there that I guess you can take take lessons from, but overall, it's just like, yeah, I never thought about it the way you're thinking about it. So it's really interesting.
yeah, I think the key thing is like you just have to be extremely transparent on Kickstarter.
Mm,
Like if there are delays, like I've had delays for my last Kickstarter, and I was just very upfront. Everybody's gonna experience a 3 months delay. Here is why. Everyone is still gonna get their product. Don't freak out. And if at
yeah,
any point of time, someone wants to back out, I will give them a full refund. And I've
that makes
and I've
sense.
done that. So
Yeah, but
um,
you're already sort of like approaching it with a completely different way, You're
right.
assuming that this is not making money for you. So it's almost like, oh, whatever comes out, comes out. That's a little different approach than
Mhm,
most of the people. I'm not talking about specifically artists, but most of the people that start the
mhm.
Kickstarter have, which is like, I'm gonna fund this thing and then
Yeah.
finish it based on the money that I make, and then hopefully it's gonna work out. And oftentimes it doesn't. I read some statistic that vast majority of Kickstarters never happen. They're just end up not happening. So I don't know, but it's
I
interesting.
mean, that's why, like, if you look at the more successful Kickstarters, a lot of times the target that they set for themselves
Hmm.
is pretty low, like because they
Yeah.
just want to hit the target. To them, it's just a platform,
Mm,
and then
that's true.
that's when they after the Kickstarter, there are other ways that you can like transition into that allows you to continue selling your product, but Kickstarter is just a platform to I mean, no pun intended, to kickstart a product, right? Just to get it out there, and then they continue with actually selling the product.
Yeah.
So it's more like an announcement platform. That's what I feel.
Yeah, it sounds like that's more of a accurate description of how you should probably think about it. That's true. A question. So so you already had two.
Hmm.
Um, how do you think it translated not just for sales, because I'm pretty sure it does translate in sales specifically. Um, but in terms of the social media impact. So let's say you have a pretty significant following on Instagram, right? And you're using it very smart. Not only just sharing your work, but also like it's your platform for sales as well. You're making awesome stuff, so why not just buying it direct from the source? I think that's the cool part about artists, as you say, artists building a brand, where you're building a brand because you have a product to be offered that is same if not better quality than most of the toys, like, especially with your kids, right? They're like, I'm just looking at some of the stuff you have there. It's like this shit is better quality than most of the stuff you see in stores, like even in like collectibles, like the really expensive ones. In terms of like how it's printed, how it's presented, it's really really good stuff. So I wonder how does it impact your social media as well, because that would be interesting. I think social media, it's a completely different discussion whether what you should do with this and whether you should do it. I think like if you want to build brand around you, you have to be balls deep in it. Let's put it this way.
Yes.
But yeah, you have to like really be aware what's going on. But did Kickstarter like had any impact on that for you or?
It did. Like some websites covered my Kickstarter, and that helped me bring in new audience.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like um, there's always there's a growing population, right? And there will always be people who have no clue what you do.
Right.
And that's why you have to be constantly doing stuff like Instagramming, Facebook, or like even Kickstarter, for example, because you'll always be bringing in um, people who have not seen your work, right?
Right.
So it definitely helped in a different way. Like I said, Kickstarter has its own audience.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
the same people as you would. I mean, there's obviously some
right.
coverage, but it's not exactly the same audience as, let's say, your
Yeah,
Instagram or
yeah.
Facebook.
Hmm. Um, yeah, it has definitely helped a bit. Yeah, the Instagramming thing is really tricky because I feel like it's becoming, especially for artists, it's becoming more of like a platform to show your process, and it's becoming very time consuming, which is good and bad again, right? Like I feel like
Yeah.
if you look at people who are really successful on Instagram, they really show their process. It's like they are living on Instagram, and
I
it is a
cannot
time
do that,
sink.
dude.
But yeah, it's the truth. I feel like in this day and age, a lot of folks are interested in how artists do their craft, right? And
Yeah.
and they want to, and it's easy for them to get on Instagram and look and like just take in all that information.
Yeah.
It is weird. I'm still trying to get used to it. I'm not as active as I want to be, um, and I'm also looking. I look at other artists
Mm-hmm.
and sort of like see what they do, like the really successful ones, and like, okay, oh, I didn't know they started doing this, and you see like almost every day they post stuff every single day. It's insane.
Yeah, I
Um,
wonder if that's healthy, or if that really does a change. Because I've heard argument like maybe you should, like, it doesn't necessarily means you should post every day, but maybe just being regular about it or regular enough, and then focus on quality. It's again, it's an interesting that we could probably go forever on this.
yeah, I think the way I look at Instagram is like you should just keep posting, even though if you're reposting stuff, it's fine.
Yeah.
Because honestly, how many people are gonna scrub through your Instagram feed and say, "Oh, he posted that like 3 months ago," right? I mean, to them,
Probably zero.
yeah, it is like watching the television, like just it's like watching TV. You just flip on
Yeah.
Instagram, see what's out there, and then once in a while you get reminded, like, oh yeah, he did do this piece of work. That's awesome. Yeah, it's really interesting to see where Instagram is headed.
Yeah, it's. I wonder where the whole IGTV is going towards. That would be interesting to know too. Yeah, you have a really significant following there. Like anyone who's listening to this, it's Dom or Dominic Qwek.
Dominic Qwek.
Dominic Qwek. Yeah, Instagram.com/Dominic Qwek. You guys should look what this guy is doing. You already know. Most of you guys already know. I mean, you're pretty popular, so. But yeah, you've been killing it. I remember. I think you started Instagram like later than I did. But you've been like super consistent with it, and it shows, and it's always quality.
I
Uh,
think definitely still learning.
Speaking of work, though, because you have a very distinct style, and I personally can see influences, and don't get me wrong, all of
Mhm.
us have influences.
Sure, sure.
I would just wonder to hear if they like, what are you gonna say about that in terms of like, what are your influences? Like, where do you look for them, and how it actually aligns with what I think,
Yeah,
if you will.
currently I'm in this really weird phase of I call it like my midlife art crisis. um, I'm still figuring it out, but I can tell you a list of my past influences,
Hmm.
and you can see it in my work right away, right? Like
Yeah,
Beksinski,
yeah,
Giga, Takayuki, Alan Williams, even a bit of Simon Lee, and it's like all these sculptors that I really, really respect, right?
yeah.
But lately, I've been looking at a bit of. I've been spending a lot of time on Pinterest and just looking at just contemporary art sculpture.
Hmm.
So yeah, to me, it's always an evolution and figuring out what's next. And it's hard because sometimes I want to do something different, but the idea is driving, and sometimes you just gotta let the idea finish itself, right? Like I'm just
Yeah.
there to see the idea through, even though I feel like, okay, this isn't really what I want to pursue now, but sometimes the sculpture takes like 3 to 4 months. I just have to finish it, right? Yeah, I don't know. I'm in a weird space now for sure.
Yeah. No, I think I'm in a similar spot. Not necessarily like maybe rebranding. I don't know how to
No,
call it.
I think you are super consistent, man. Like I look at Showtime and like, okay, I can see
Yeah,
where
but
this is
Showtime is
going,
like
and
Showtime is very sort of like uh very mono in a way. Like I have sort of like the style that I developed over years.
mhm, mhm.
And hey, guess what? Otomo Katsuhiro is my biggest influence.
Yeah.
Newsflash.
No way.
No.
I had no idea.
Yeah, you cannot tell that from the work that I do. Uh, but I think, I look at my other work, like other personal work and also professional work. I think it's sort of like evolving, and sometimes I feel like, man, like what got me to this game, I sort of like I'm losing it in a way, because I remember I used to be like more efficient with certain things like painting, for instance, right? I would be pretty quick at doing that. And now, as I'm using more 3D, it just becomes like if I have to paint something, I feel like I have broken hands, Like, what the hell is going
I find that really hard to believe.
on?
Sure,
No, it's
sure.
true. It's true. Like I used to be much, much faster with like sketching. And now it's like I can deliver, I can get much faster results that are more modular in a way. Like,
Mhm.
okay, I can make 3D stuff, render it really well, and have it done in like several angles, and that's gonna deliver sort of like more quality. Um, but the problem is like the beginning of it is usually more time consuming. So it's like, okay, like how do I, when I work with clients, how do I make sure that what they see is, like, hey, like this is where it's going,
Right.
So that's always interesting. And then also like trying to develop your own style. I think I'm getting sort of like very jaded by, and I've been talking about this before about like and it's very interesting because it seems like you're going through the same thing as you're saying. It's like, yeah, you get the influences of different styles, and you look at other artists' work. I really try not to do that, but it's sometimes inevitable.
Mm-hmm.
But you get those influences, and at some point you realize like I really want to figure out something else for myself, and then the
Yeah.
struggle begins.
Yeah,
uh,
it's I don't know. This is gonna sound very narcissistic, but like, do you ask yourself what your legacy is gonna be?
all the time.
Um, because I do that too. Like, do I really want to be remembered for this piece? And
Yeah.
that's why I feel like if you look at my art 5 years ago and the art I do today, it's like 5 years ago I wanted to do like creature design for Star Wars, right? And I still have those creature designs, and I'm proud of them. But if you look at the work I do now, it's like
Yeah, it's way different.
it's so different.
Yeah,
And I feel like,
it's way better too because it's more. Even though you have your own influences and
mhm,
everyone
mhm,
does, it's still your work and it still speaks you. Because
right.
there is, it's funny because like whenever I do an image for whatever that is, there is always someone saying like, "Oh, it looks totally like this."
Of course, I mean that's, and I mean if you look at the history of art, I'm sure every artist has been influenced by a
Yeah,
previous artist, right?
yeah, it's pretty
And
obvious.
honestly, it is a pet peeve of mine when someone says, "Oh, your stuff looks like that." I'm like, "Okay, thank you," but it's also evolving.
You know what's
Um,
worse? Yeah, I'll tell you what's worse. If you create something original, and it didn't
mhm,
happen to me many times. I think I had a situation like that. If you create something, and then someone copies your work, but they become more noticed, and
mhm.
then the audience of that person comes back like, oh, stop copying this this guy.
Oh
It's like
man,
fuck off, dude.
obviously this has happened to you before.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't.
we can save this for the next podcast.
Yeah, we can. Cyberpunk. But I love those dudes, by the way. I actually gonna work with them maybe with
Uh-huh.
CD Project. Uh, those are great dudes. I know a lot of people working there, and they have
Yeah.
nothing to do with that cyberpunk thing. It's just the fucking. I should stop ranting.
You should.
Anyways, you know what? Let's do this. There's been a few questions. I know you. I know. I don't want to take too much time. It's gonna be a short one, guys. Because you have to work, and so do I. I still want to make it happen. I want to invite you again and do like a longer one, maybe like
Yeah,
not on the weekday. Maybe in person. Who knows? We can do it.
who
Do it one
knows?
more
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
I definitely wanna pick your brain more on like the IP building side
Yeah. We could
because
even
like,
we could even have a discussion about that. That would be fun.
yeah, honestly, one of my, I wouldn't say struggle, but challenges is to keep my my work within like an IP, like within a
Mm-hmm.
certain world. And I feel like you do that really well. At the same time, I question myself whether for sculptural art, whether that's necessary. Sometimes
Right.
a piece of art is just a piece of art, right? Um, and by putting something out there, I'm just showing you what I'm thinking, what's in my head. But I can't help but think like, wouldn't it be great if all of that belong to this like bigger
Mm.
world? And I feel like you have a very good grasp of that when it comes to like storytelling and in your images.
Yeah. I'm trying. I'm really trying. And I don't have that many characters in what I'm doing. With Showtime specifically, I literally have. I have different characters, like different ideas for characters, I guess. But like the two characters that are like almost like a repeating pattern is those two
Mm,
characters I draw all the time. And it's just like it just I don't have as of today, I don't really have like a solid story around this, explanation whatsoever. For me it's just like it's my I want to do manga, I want to do this, I want to do that, but I just found myself not really that interested in making it as big of a project. It's more of like it's my sort of like venting machine where I
It's
really
just
want to
funny you
do.
say that because like the stuff you're putting out looks like it's part of a bigger project.
Yeah, but see that because I have this approach where I want to make it fun, you know.
Right.
I the more the you work in the industry and you do a lot of work for clients and sometimes you do your personal work, it can easily wear you down, you know.
Yeah.
And I think you know when I had like more serious approach, let's do this and let's do that. I just my brain doesn't work that way. Like it
Mm.
just shuts down. I lose interest, you know.
Yeah.
If it's not if it's becoming like if it's becoming a hustle, you know, it's like, oh, I have to do this. Now I have 20 more pages to complete, you know, oh my God, I'm running out
Yeah.
of time, this and that. It just becomes this, you know what? I don't want to deal with that, you know?
I
So,
don't think you have to force yourself into that situation. Like, I mean, what you're doing right now, you're putting out like this tiny excerpts of what this world is about.
yeah,
You can determine the pace for yourself, right?
exactly. And that's the
And
sort of like the most healthy approach I found so
yeah,
far.
yeah.
But it's different, you know Danny Lovisi pretty well. And, you know, his
Hmm.
brain works completely different. He just puts out books after book. Well, he did a
Yeah.
book, he did two books. And he has like so much going on, and you know, I haven't been seeing much of him lately, but he used to just like, you know, he had that energy of doing all those things. You know, Ash is a little different too. Ash it's just like puts out film after film after film, and he puts so much effort to it. You know. But
Yeah.
all of them are sort of like short enough to keep being interesting. I think a very interesting approach he has is he wants to learn as he goes, you know. So like whenever he's making a film, he's learning something new. You know, there's
Hmm.
always something new. Like I can tell you that Akira project he did, the
Yeah.
Akira Awaken.
Yeah.
I I talk with Ash almost every day, and I know what he's doing. You know, like I'm
Hmm.
aware of what kind of work he's doing for what kind of people, and I can tell you like I'm fucking jealous as hell, but also inspired. You know, because
Hmm.
he's learned so much over like last year and a half. And I think
Right.
it's like a very interesting approach, and now I'm learning from him. You know, like I remember when I remember those conversations with Ash I had where he would just like, I don't want to learn this, I don't want to do that. You know, this is whack. I don't want to deal with that. You know, and then
Hmm.
2 years later he picks it up, and then it's like this is the best thing ever. But I was like, hey, I picked up the thing you told me about, and also two other things that you didn't talk about, but they're awesome too. Check it out. I was like, what the fuck? Yeah, uh,
Yeah. He
it's
seems
interesting.
really big on learning. That's really important, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. He is, and you know, I think it works really well for him. You know, it's a
Hmm.
good friend, and we're learning from one another really a lot. So, all right, man. Let's go through like a few questions so we can wrap it up, and
Yeah.
yeah,
I can I
let's.
can I can go on for a bit longer if
Oh,
you want
okay.
to. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. There's a couple of questions. Okay, yeah, we can go a little longer. We can
Yeah.
definitely make. I mean, talking about you know, your IP development, all of those things. It's definitely something that we should probably have like a separate discussion about. You know, because you know, it's just like there's just so many details we can go into. I think
Yeah.
that would be definitely the way to go. But yeah, I wonder in terms of like, and not maybe IP, but learning itself. Like, how you approach that? You know, do you really focus on getting to know new tools? How do you look at that alone? Because I'll tell you one thing that I noticed, and it can be a great thing and also a bad thing if you approach it incorrectly. So learning new things is great, right? Because you
Hmm.
learn different ways of working, all that stuff.
Right.
But there's always going to be a point, and it's a different point to different people, uh, where it's like, oh my god, this is already too much, you know? Like I've
Hmm.
learned those three programs, and now I have to learn the fifth. It's like what the fuck, you know?
Right.
I wonder how you approach that, personally.
I think I just learned what's needed for the task at hand. you know, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back to it. I feel like if you talk about just programs in general, there's always you can always go very deep and learn everything about that one program. But to me, I'll just learn what's needed to accomplish the task.
Mm-hmm.
And then if further down the road, I feel like, okay, I need to learn how to do this now. And then that's when I go and learn how to do that in the program.
Right. Do you ever
Um,
feel a need where it's like, maybe I should pick up this new software that just came out, or like,
oh yeah, for sure, for sure. Like now that I'm working at a like more into games, I've had to pick up like Substance, you know,
mm-hmm.
and it's
You've
never
been
been
playing with
an
Substance a lot recently?
yeah. I've had to
How do you like
for a
it? Do you
while.
play with the painter or the designer?
Both. I've tried both right now, and it's awesome. Yeah.
What do you
Um,
think? Because I want to jump into Substance really soon, and to
mhm.
me it's always going to be like based on the project. But I've also noticed that sometimes it's really good to know some of the tools,
Yeah.
because you might just come up with an idea on how to tackle certain problems that immediately become a solution for your work. You know, like a new approach for your work. So I
I
wonder
think
what's.
like if you look at Substance Source right now, that library is like just growing
Mm-hmm.
and growing, and they're putting really high quality materials in there. I haven't seen much designers use it for concept though. Interestingly enough, it's mostly just like game assets.
Right.
But dude, it's so powerful, man. Everything is procedural, and like you can create 5 or 10 different variations based on a single network of nodes that you've created for one material. You can create like 5 variations of that single network.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful, and I think I feel like you're gonna start seeing it used. It's probably being used in film a lot already, but I think it's gonna be more widely adopted.
Mm. Yeah, that'll
Yeah.
make sense. That'll make a lot of sense. Yeah, film and games are cross pollinating a lot. You know,
Hmm.
you can see the same sort of products being used across the board. You know,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. I've
Yeah,
noticed
but
that
I
a
mean,
lot.
but what about you? Like, it sounds like you have to constantly be learning like a lot of different programs.
I don't have to. I want to. You know, and then there's always an issue where what is really necessary. You know,
I
like
think
for
that's the
instance,
better, yeah, that's a better question to ask. Is like, what do you need right now?
yeah, because for instance, okay, like everyone is super jazzed about Blender. You know,
Mhm.
like anywhere you go, it's like Blender everywhere.
It's funny you said that. I just installed it today. Yeah.
um, and my issue with this is it's not that I think it's not that I have any thoughts about Blender specifically. It's just like just thinking about learning Blender, like just learning new 3D
Yeah.
software, it just already makes me, you know, especially because it's a 3D software, it's a 3D package, and I already know a 3D package that is an industry standard that I can
Yeah.
easily use. I know it really well. It's not really that difficult for me to pick up the pieces and create something good with it. You know, it has its
Yeah.
own all shortcoming, all that kind of stuff. You know, but still, at the end of the day, I get the work done, and and it's pretty solid. You know, the
Mhm.
output is constant.
I think that's more important. Like, what you are the most comfortable with. Like the way I look at it is like, what is the one skill? What is your one superpower, right? Is it drawing? Is it sculpting? Is it design? And that is the one thing that you need to focus like 80% of your time on. Like for instance, like I don't see myself as like a ZBrush guru because I know if I need to do something very specific in ZBrush, I can Google for it and I'll
Yeah.
learn it. But I know I can't learn art style on Google. Like
No, you cannot. That's for
style
sure.
has to be evolved and practiced. So that's why most of my times I'm not really learning specific techniques. I'm just sculpting and just creating, designing, thinking, more of that than anything else,
Hmm.
to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, tools are easy. I mean, yeah. I had this discussion with Ash about actually, like, what do you do? How do you learn to? How do you?
Mhm.
Why do you learn specific tools, and how do you approach this? Because like it's just so easy to get like really into that busy work of learning a software just for sake of learning it.
Yeah.
But the question you said, like, yeah, how is it really necessary for you in the way, okay, like, what is the purpose for me to learn it? Is it
Yeah.
just learning for learning's sake? Because then it's just a waste of time. Or is it the learning because you see like a potential benefit in the future of doing that, or
Hmm.
in the near future, or on this very specific project? So
Well, it depends on the type of work you do too. I feel like as creators and designers, it's while the tool is important, I feel like the idea that you put out is probably more important.
oh yeah,
It,
no,
you
yeah,
know what I mean?
absolutely.
But when it comes to someone who's more of like a craftsman, where you need to put out a certain volume of work, right? Like for a client or whatever. I think a good example is like if you're in game production, you
Mm-hmm.
have to put out like 4 or 5 AAA characters in a year, and like you need to be able to do a lot of techniques and different pipelines. That's when um, you have different considerations. I feel then you have to really focus on how to like use Marvelous Designer really quick to create drapery, or like just be super good at substance. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. Yeah, I'm trying to make this approach where I'm just learning if I need to.
Hmm.
So, for instance, if I start doing a project, so there's two ways. One is like I really have like this idea in my head and I want to try it, and
Hmm.
for that I need to learn something new. Or, and that's what I did like with the shaders, right? With like
Hmm.
the 3D shader, like
Right.
I call it like
The half
a
the
Showtime.
half
Yeah,
tone.
the Showtime shader. Like in V-Ray, I know how to set it up, and I know it's gonna save me ton of work.
Hmm.
It's like if I ever get Ash, like I'll get Ash back on the podcast sometime. Um, but he can testify for himself how good the shader, how much time it's saving.
So
Because
like
like
is
you don't have to
that's
do
not
much
all
anymore.
3D, right? Is like all your pieces for Showtime is that all 3D?
Well,
It's
you
like
never
a
know.
looks like a mix. It looks like a mix.
It is definitely a mix, and I'm obviously overpainting it, so it is a mix. But you know, I
Ah,
made that shader, and I can tell you that it just helps,
yeah, I can see.
especially for like complex stuff. It really
Yeah, yeah,
helps because it gives you like a good base, and sometimes it just gives you everything. You don't really need to
yeah.
touch anything anymore. So
I like how you got the nice cutout for the shadows.
yeah,
Like
so that's
it's
from
a nice
3D, but
harsh.
then
Yeah,
obviously some of it is fixed. This is a project I'm doing with Ash, by the way.
cool.
Yeah, this is a Ash's kind of goodies. Yeah, you probably can see it with a delay on the stream. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, I'm doing this project with Ash. We're doing posters together.
very cool, man.
Yeah, it's very soon to be done. Very, very soon. It's gonna be fun. And we plan to do more. We started with those two, and we plan to do more. It's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Dear, let's jump into questions. Let's uh, let's look into those, and then I really would want to get you back on the show at some point, so we can deep dive, get
Hmm.
to the bottom of the approach for making your own IP and learning all of those things. Because
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like we could have a pretty long conversation about this.
Yeah,
I would love to,
I think just talking about Shopify, we can probably talk for like an hour.
yeah, I want to talk with you about that too. Like your experiences and all of that, because
Yeah, yeah,
I have my Shopify set up and all of those things, but there are just certain things that I'm not certainly uh, convinced about, let's put it this way. And just knowing how busy my schedule is, it's like I really have to be careful with what I do, you know. That's why I
I
haven't
think
released the worldwide shipping yet, because I
I
just am
would
just.
be, I
Mhm.
feel very confident about Shopify. Like, but this is just going to be like my gut reaction, right? Like, give
Yeah.
Shopify 5 to 10 years, and it will be a totally different beast. Already in the past 5 years that I've been using it, it's helped me so many times, right?
Mm,
And I think what we're going to see next is we're going to see a lot of like service providers uh, hook up with Shopify.
that makes
So
sense.
imagine a digital platform like Gumroad being hooked up directly to Shopify,
Hmm.
right? I think we're going to see a lot of that in the next few years.
That
Um,
would be interesting to see.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
they're already working with Facebook and all
Hmm.
that jazz. So I still can't have it set up with freaking Instagram, man. It's a real bummer because you can set it up
Yeah.
so you can whenever I post on Instagram, I mostly post art, but sometimes like, hey, I get this new T-shirt. Especially now, I
Hmm.
started doing that. I would love to just post it and then you can just click and buy it from there if you want to, you know. I
Hmm.
cannot because they don't want to do it for me for whatever
So
reason.
weird. I mean, I still don't
It's
understand
really
why that's happening
annoying.
to you.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really annoying. Like I've I've, I've made like a completely different face. There's like a complete walkthrough of what to do. Like you have to have products on your Facebook, and then when it works, then you just connect it, and then they review, and once they review, it works. And I've been doing everything to the book, and it just doesn't work. It's just
Yeah.
annoying because there's always an issue. Anyways, that's like a completely different things. All right, let's go into questions. Let's see. First one was Blum. We the first okay. The first question was about personal work and your approach to it, and we kind of organically went to it,
Yeah, I think
so
we
we can
did.
skip that one. Someone mentioned that the Learn Squirt course in business, legal, and self branding would be killer. Yeah, I think it would. It's just a matter of I'm discussing this with Andrew and Momo on how to do it because I you know I don't want to do a course where it's an advice of an artist that is not necessarily the biggest business
Yeah.
person.
Hmm.
I want to do like all the classes we have are from like pros, the best in the town.
Right.
Uh, we kind of want to maintain that standard across the board. So in terms of business, self help, all that kind of discussions, we're considering like it could be either a course or maybe a podcast or something. We just don't know. Um, Let me see. There wasn't that many questions actually.
Cool.
uh, yeah, it was a lot of discussion and sort of like half questions that happened. We just happened to answer. That's crazy. That doesn't happen that often. At
That's
which point,
perfect.
at which point of the career one should care about financials like that and take the decision based. I think it's unfinished question.
Oh, you should
Decision
always be
based.
thinking
Yeah.
about your financials right from the start, right?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Like if you're in US, and you can double down on this. I'm pretty sure you will. If you're in US, start a corporation and start taking business classes for reals. Wouldn't you agree, man? Like I think you
I
will.
would like I think there are um, expenses that you can write off, and
Yeah.
I mean we can argue like how much to write off. That's like a separate discussion. But if you have a business, you should be writing off expenses, right?
Yeah.
And if you are using your home office, you should be writing off part of your mortgage or your rent. Um, and that only helps lower your taxable income, and that's really important, especially when you're running your own business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that and then, having a corporation, protects you from eventual liability issues. which I already had to deal with myself, and it was not fun. And it literally cost me. Again, those are the things that can happen to you, and you have no recourse if you're not protected correctly, and you can be
Right.
taken advantage of. And artists are stupid, including myself, to be taken advantage of. So you wanna have a corporation started. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I have the one of the biggest reason for the legal side of things is that in case you get into some kind of ugly situation with a very big company, they can take down your corporation and not you, right? So
yeah, exactly.
if you go to court and like they start dragging out the court case because they have like $500 billion in their bank account and they're just bleeding you dry, they having a corporation protects you from truly becoming bankrupt because they could
Yeah,
just bleed your corporation and you are still like your finances will still be fine. So that's
yeah,
very important.
yeah. Maybe we should make a podcast about that too. That
I've
complete
been in
subject.
a
So
few situations
yeah,
previously too, and yeah, definitely had to learn a lot about copyright and like
yeah,
lawyering up stuff like that.
yeah, yeah. It's pretty important. Like you should really take care of business. If you're an artist, don't be that artist that doesn't know business. Like just start learning. You'll be better off. Even negotiating contracts and stuff. So all right, man. Let's wrap it up. I'm getting phone calls from clients. They're probably,
Okay.
where's my work? So I'll get back to that. I got a ton of work to do this week.
Yeah.
Um,
Thanks
yeah,
again
let's.
for catching up, man.
Yeah,
It's
man, it's
been
been
good.
fun. I haven't talked with you for a while. It was really good to catch up, and
Yeah.
so let's do that. Let's catch up soon again. I'll obviously, extending my invitation if you want to join the podcast again. I think we came to conclusion we have a lot of topics that we want to go in like
Yeah.
in more
Yeah.
length, so we could definitely do that. That'll be definitely fun. Cool, man. Well, I'll talk to you later. I'll hit you up anyways. Whether it's a podcast or not. And we'll talk some more. Anyone who joined us today, thanks for coming. And yeah, it was fun hanging out. Really appreciate Dom for taking your time off and making this happen. So
Yeah. I just want to make a quick shout out to like
yeah,
what
go
you're
ahead.
doing, like I think what you're doing is really good. Like it's pretty much giving up free education, right? And I don't think enough people are doing it. So
Mm.
definitely applaud you for like, doing art cafe. How long has it been? Like 3 years now?
Yeah, it's been a couple of years now.
Yeah, good job, dude. Good job. Really appreciate it.
Well, if you guys appreciate it, you can always hit that subscribe button. Click 10,000 likes. Will be great. All right, guys. Take care. Have a great day, night, morning, wherever you are, and I'll talk to you, Dom, later. Peace.
Yeah.